Hey guys, it's Alexandra from Cre8tioncrochet.com and yarncraftsandcoffee.com. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a twisted ear warmer. This is my absolute favorite style to wear. I like to have this in the front, and instead of having it center, I like to put it off center. I know some folks are a little bit sensitive to the extra bulkiness at the base of the neck when it's full fabric, since the bottom can roll up a little bit. So this could definitely work on the back side, where you're eliminating some of that extra fabric at the base. Basically a 2-in-1 because you can wear it on the front or on the back. So this is a simple rectangle, and we get this twist when we join the two pieces together. So I'm going to show you how to do that technique. This is part of the 2024 Mystery Ear Warmer Crochet Along that I'm hosting on my Cre8tion Crochet blog. You can pop down into the description box for the link to that and links to other ear warmer tutorials. I have 5 ear warmers here in front of me, all worked in half double crochet stitches and finished off a little bit differently. You're going to find instructions for 4 sizes here: toddler, child, adult small, and adult large. These sizes are based on your head circumference. So in order to know exactly which one is going to fit the best, I recommend that you take your soft tape measure and you measure the circumference of your head just above your eyebrows. That's going to be your finished head size. Gauge is not terribly essential for this project. It is essential in the sense that you need to measure your ear warmer so that you can make sure you have the correct sizing, but you don't need to stop and take gauge or work up a swatch before you get started. I know a lot of us don't like to do that anyway, so I've designed these to be worked in a rectangle widthwise so that after just working a couple rows up, you're going to know right off the bat if it is the correct width. And then I am going to provide row counts, but you can use your soft tape measure to measure as you go and make sure that the length is going to be the correct size to fit your head size. So the way you're going to take your gauge is after working about 4 to 6 rows up, you're going to measure the width of your rectangle, and this is going to be how tall your ear warmer is. So if after working these 4 to 6 rows, you decide that you want it to be more narrow, then you can rework it with less stitches. There is no stitch multiple, so any number of stitches works. If you want it to be a thicker band, then you can add stitches on in any number that you like. Then you'll continue working in pattern to build your rectangle up. Before fastening off, I highly recommend measuring from the bottom edge of the rectangle all the way up to the top edge. And make sure that this is the correct measurement, because if it's measuring smaller or larger, then the finished ear warmer may not fit correctly. I've worked with a lot of yarns here, and I found that working an ear warmer in this manner, no matter which yarn, 2 to 2.5 inches smaller than the head circumference, makes for a really comfortable fit. Because the rectangle is worked lengthwise, it has a little bit more give to it. So 2 inches smaller than your head circumference is a comfortable loose fit. 2.5 inches smaller gives you a more tight fit, like a hug. I like mine a little bit tighter, but if you like yours a little bit looser, then that's your range right there. You're going to need some worsted weight yarn. That's a number 4 weight yarn. I've been working with a lot of yarns out of my stash, so the green at the top and the pink right here are both Lion Brand Wool Ease. The tan one is Barocco Vintage. The teal one is a new one to me. This is Araucania Hawasco Kettle Dyed yarn. And the dark gray over here on the right is Lion Brand Jeans. So the jeans yarn is a 100% acrylic yarn, and the other ones are wool blends. Wool blends are my preferred yarn for cozy accessories, but I know that some of you are allergic to wool, so I wanted to make sure I had an acrylic option, make sure that it worked up well and it fit well. Another option that you could go with if you're allergic to wool, but you want to do an animal fiber, is going to be alpaca yarn. I'm going to pop the links to all these yarns down in the description box, as well as the names to the colors that you see here, and I'll share some yarn alternatives including alpaca down there as well. Animal fibers are going to keep you warmer. They're going to help protect against the wind better. So if I'm just out and about on a cold day, I might just reach for my ear warmer that's worked in acrylic yarn. But if I was going to go on, let's say, a trolley ride and it's cold and windy out, I'm going to go for my wool blend. I'm also going to add a beanie and a hoodie and all that good stuff, but wool blends for sure are going to help protect against the wind. There are so many great options for worsted weight yarns, so if I didn't mention yours, it doesn't mean it's not a good option. I just didn't have it to work with. So feel free to pick your favorite worsted weight yarn. I would stay away from a 100% cotton since it's not mixed with any fibers that will help it keep its shape, but any other worsted weight yarn would be perfect. You're also going to need an H8 5mm crochet hook. This is the one you're going to see me working with. It's one of my favorite hooks, and I'll link it down in the description box below. I got this from Etsy from Sienna's Boutique. Now, little plug real quick, I do have a yarn shop, Yarn Crafts and Coffee. I do have all these yarns available in my shop, as well as some hooks and some other notions and boutique items. So I would love if you would pop over for a visit. If you're local to Central Florida, you can find our yarn shop inside America's Antique Mall in Melbourne, Florida. Let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with a slip knot. So I pulled the yarn over my fingers here. I'm going to wrap it around my index finger 2 times and then hold tension down here with my thumb and my middle finger. Pull the loop on the left up over the other one, but not off my finger. Then I'll pull the one on the left up over the other one and off my finger. Grab my crochet hook, insert it into the loop on my finger and pull it off. I'll hold the working yarn in my right hand, short tail in my left. I'm going to pull that so this knot goes to normal tension. We're going to begin with a chain. To chain, we yarn over and pull through the loop on our hook. Yarn over, pull through the loop on our hook. Yarn over, pull through the loop on our hook. Each time we do that, we get one of these V shapes. 1, 2, 3 chains. We don't count the loop that's on our hook. I'm going to go ahead and put up a chart that shows how many chains you're going to want to have depending on the size that you're working. Now that we have our chain complete, we're going to half double crochet into the 3rd chain from the hook. Again, we don't count the loop that's on our hook. 1, 2, 3 chains. In the center of that chain, we're going to work our first half double crochet, yarn over, insert your hook into that stitch, yarn over and pull through, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops, yarn over, insert your hook into the center of the next chain, yarn over and pull through, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Yarn over, insert your hook into the center of the next chain, yarn over and pull through, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Right now we have 3 half double crochets complete that we've worked together. You can look to the top of those and see that V shape there. That's how you can count them really easily. Over here where we started, we skipped a couple chains and worked into the 3rd one. Those skipped chains there are also going to count as a stitch. So even though we worked 3 half double crochets, we add that as a stitch and we have 4 stitches in total. Continue half double crocheting into each chain all the way across to the end. Here I've reached the end and I have all my stitches complete. The total amount of stitches that you're going to have for this row is going to be 1 less than what you started with when you chained. For row 2, we're going to chain 1 and turn. We're going to half double crochet into this very first stitch and each stitch all the way across. Yarn over, insert your hook right into the center of that stitch, picking up both loops of the V shape at the top, then complete your half double crochet. And continue half double crocheting into each stitch. At the end, we are going to work our last stitch into that beginning chain that we skipped. So once I get there, we'll do that together. Here at the end, it looks like we've completed our row, but we actually have 1 more stitch left to work into, and that's going to be the beginning chain where we skipped those 2 stitches and worked into the 3rd one. So the very next stitch that you're going to see here is a chain, and you're going to see the back bump there from the back of the chain. Then right underneath that is going to be the second chain, and the third chain is where that first half double crochet is worked. So that first chain there, the next stitch that's available to work into, that's where we're going to half double crochet. So you're going to insert right into the center of that chain and complete your half double crochet. And now row 2 is complete. And the shaping is off a little bit right here, but as you continue working, that's going to even out. All the remaining rows are going to be worked the same. You're going to start with a chain 1 and turn, and then you're going to half double crochet into that very first stitch and half double crochet into each stitch all the way across. When you get to the end, you'll work into a half double crochet the same as all the rest of the stitches. And for all these rows, you're going to have the same number of stitches that you had here in row 1, which is just 1 stitch less than the number of chains that you created. I have 5 rows complete here. To count your rows, you're going to look for the texture to differentiate between them. Down here at the bottom, the stitches look prettier and more defined. That's going to be the right side or the front side. Above that for row 2, the stitches are more textured, they're less defined. That's going to be the wrong side or the back side. Above that, you'll see the pretty side again, and above that, you'll see the textured side. You'll use this to help you with counting the rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Or the further I get, I count by 2s, and I just look for that raised up textured row, and I'll count 2, 4, 6, and so on. After you get about 4 to 6 rows complete, that's going to be the finished width of your ear warmer. So you can take your soft tape measure, you can measure the width from the edge of the left side all the way across to the edge of the right side up here at the top. So if you wanted a thinner ear warmer, you would work less chains and less stitches. And if you wanted a thicker band, then you would work more chains and more stitches. So if you wanted to take this out and rework it, you'll just want to make sure you work 4 to 6 rows so that you can get an accurate width measurement. So I'm going to put up a chart that's going to show how many rows in total you're going to need depending on the size that you're working. Now that we have all our rows complete, you're going to want to lay this out flat and measure from the bottom edge all the way across to the top edge, and make sure that this is long enough before you continue, because you can always add extra rows here. Or if it's too long, you can take rows out. But I recommend you go ahead and measure now, make sure you're in the right ballpark. But if you're not measuring correct now, then the finished ear warmer is not going to fit correctly. Now that you have all your rows done, we're going to go ahead and fasten off with a longer tail end here that you're going to use to seam this up here. Then I'm going to come back here to this very last stitch, and I'm going to pull up on that loop so that it breaks it. And I'm going to go ahead and weave in my initial tail end. So I want my tail end to come into this inside layer here. So I'm going to work on the edge over here, bringing it from the bottom into the middle of the stitch there on the end, right where the top of that row is, and pull it through. That's going to create the right leg here. Then I'm going to bring it right back down into that very last stitch at the top, and that's going to create the left leg. So it's going to mimic the look of the other rows here. I don't want it to have too much slack, but I don't want it to also be too tight. So I just want to manipulate it so that it looks natural. And then I'll flip this to the inside, and now I'll weave in my ends. And I like to do 3 passes. That's my magic number. You can fasten off after 2 if you're comfortable. If you need to work a 4th one, go ahead and do it. I also don't pick up the whole entire stitch here when I enter and exit. Instead, I break the stitch in half with my needle, and I'm going to run it vertically under a couple stitches here, right along the edge, so that it will hide the bulkiness here. I hold on to the fabric in between my fingers and then pull the needle through, give it a tug, go back and manipulate the fabric if I need to, if it has bunched up the fabric here. We want it to lay naturally. And I'll rotate it, insert into a nearby stitch, breaking it in half, run back up through several of those stitches, break that last stitch in half when I exit. Hold on to it in between my fingers, pull the needle through, give it a tug, manipulate the fabric. And one more pass for me. I'll turn it back around, same process, nearby stitch, break it in half, up through the same stitches, break the last one in half. Hold on to the fabric, pull it through, give it a tug, manipulate the fabric if needed. And then I'll fasten off. Now I'll go back to the end here. I'm going to go ahead and thread that into my tapestry needle. And I'll set this aside for a moment. You're going to lay your rectangle out. Bring the 2 layers in on themselves, so like halfway fold so that that edge goes to the middle, and do the same thing on the other side, halfway fold it in on itself so the edge goes to the middle. Now you're gonna fold these 2 ends out. You're gonna bring the top corner to the middle of the left panel. Then you're gonna push down the bottom corner of the left panel so that it's flat against the right panel, and that very first stitch or last stitch there is going to be halfway on the right panel. Then you're going to take the bottom of that right panel and wrap it around to fold it over to the other side. And the end of that one is going to meet the beginning with that left panel sandwiched in between there. And those 3 layers are going to meet at the halfway point. Then you're going to take the top left panel and you're going to fold it over to the right, over on top of the other fabric. And where you worked your last stitch, that is going to match up with the end that you see there. All 4 layers right on top of each other, with each layer even with the others. And then we're going to sew this closed. Now you could do this several different ways. If you did not want to sew it, instead of fastening off here with a long tail end, you could have just slip stitched through all 4 layers all the way across. It does leave a seam that's a little bit bulkier, and sometimes it's a little bit harder to grab all the stitches. But that's one option. You could whip stitch the ends here. It means that you're going to continuously be wrapping it over the top to come from the top layer down once it comes out of the bottom. Then you're going to bring your needle again from the top, go through all the layers all the way down. Once it comes out of the bottom, again, you'll go through the top. With that, you'll see the yarn here over top of it throughout the whole entire thing. Another option is called a running stitch, where you bring it up through the top here, you come straight down through all those layers. Once you pull it out here at the bottom, you go up through the next stitch just next to it, and you go up through all the layers. Once you come out here at the top, you go into the next stitch just next to it, go down through all the layers, and repeat that process all the way through. With this one, it hides that tail end, so nothing's crossing over itself. The fabric is just going to continue to look exactly as it does now. All this is personal preference, so whatever you like the best, whatever is the easiest for you, whichever gives you the look that you like here, then that's what I recommend you doing. The most important thing as you're working is going to make sure that you catch all the stitches. So as you're working, you want to make sure when you go through the top layer, you go through the second layer into the same stitch, and the third layer into the same stitch, and then the fourth layer into the same stitch. That way you have all 4 layers on your needle as you're working through. If you don't catch all of the layers there, then you will notice a gap at the end from where you missed picking up that stitch. So I'm going to go here from the bottom, going to bring my needle up through the top, right there where it bends. Pick up that second layer, again where it bends, and then through my last stitch here. Now I've caught all 4 layers and I'll pull through. I'm going to come up here next to it on the left and run vertically there. I have the bottom layer, the coordinating second layer, the coordinating third layer, and the fourth layer at the top. And pull through. Go into the next stitch to the left, straight down, making sure I catch all my layers. And pull through. Go into the next stitch on the left at the bottom, work through all 4 layers out the top, and pull through. And I'm just going to continue working all the way until I get to the end here. Once I get all the way to the end, I like to give it a tug, make sure it's nice and tight. You don't want it to be cinched, so you still want it to lay flat naturally here, but you don't want any slack in there. So I just give it a tug and then smooth it out with my fingers. And now you can go ahead and weave in your end. I like to try to keep it here in the bulkiness of this last row. And I'm going to do it the same way as the other one, breaking the stitches in half when I enter and exit. Now I feel comfortable with that, so I'm going to go ahead and fasten off. Get that out of the way. Turn this right side out. And there you have a twisted join. This is my absolute favorite way to have ear warmers. I love to have this in the front off-centered, but you could also have this twist at the base of the neck. Sometimes people don't like having all this extra fabric there down at the base of the neck because the bottom does tend to roll up depending on how far down you pull the ear warmer. For me, it doesn't bother me. The fabric is soft and drapey, so it's not too bulky there, but for some people they don't like to have that. So you very easily could put this twist at the back and then you don't have any of that extra fabric there in the center. Guys, I hope you enjoyed my video. If you did, please smash that like button to let YouTube know that you enjoyed it, and subscribe while you're there. Make sure you pop down into the description box below so that you can grab the link to the ear warmer crochet along and the links to the other ear warmer patterns if you're interested. And I'll catch you guys next time.